Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. As always, I don't know when you are viewing this webinar and this series. Once again, thank you so much for the opportunity to share some ideas and suggestions and strategies and some of the research that's been done long before I put any of this work together around what are the actions that really drive learning through effective grading and feedback. So we're on to webinar number 7. Again, my name is Dave Nagel, and since we've been doing this for a while, I'm going to skip any of the unnecessary time with introductions and things like that and get right on to webinar 7. So we're going to continue looking at how we prevent failure through the SITE model and looking at it through two specific strategies, Amnesty Days and what I call Make It Happen. And once again, as a review from webinar 6, to remember that we're not looking at doing the work for the students, we're looking at shaping the path, making failure more difficult than success. Hopefully by now you have your working handout in front of you and you're ready to move on to webinar number 7. And again, as a quick review of the SITE model. Again, number 1, students that come to us, especially at the freshman and sophomore level, knowing that if they come with some history of failure or a pattern in the past where they haven't been successful, they need to know that they're going to be supported. We're going to make them do the work. We're going to love them enough to provide empathy, not sympathy. There's a key distinction between those two words. Empathy is I'm going to look at learning through the eyes of the student. I'm going to consider their background, their makeup. Maybe they're coming to me and they never had as good a teacher as I am right now. And I'm saying that as all of us, listening should be saying it. Maybe they didn't have you last year. They didn't have the quality instruction. They didn't have the quality support. And maybe they don't have it at home. So I'm going to look at learning through their eyes, but I'm not going to provide sympathy, which is where I would lower the expectation. But I'm going to use intervention, incentives, time, and evidence to drive, helping them have a better chance at success and passing courses and having the skills they need to do so than enduring course failures. And so that support element is critical. The students know that we care about them, but we care about them enough to make sure that they do the right thing. And another key element, especially as we go through these next few strategies, and something that I mentioned early in this series that we all have to know, at the secondary level, we are faced with a time constraint. We have sort of a pattern at times that we created in our heads that 18 weeks is how long it takes students to master material within a course. I think we all know some kids are going to need more than 18, and my gosh, some of them are going to be able to do it in 15. But at the end of the day, for our failure prevention element, time is the variable and learning is the constant. It doesn't mean we don't move on in curriculum and some of the other things, but we use time more on our side than I think we need to use time more on our side in the past than we have to make sure that doesn't get in the way of the essential learning elements. So the two strategies I'm going to talk about today are Amnesty Days and Make It Happen. And one of the points that I actually didn't include the slide on as I was just thinking about it was early in this process, I talked about determining benefits and drawbacks. You as the teacher and your teacher-based team have to determine what are the benefits of these strategies that I'm sharing and what are some of the drawbacks. And then use the teeter-totter effect. If there's more benefits than drawbacks, we have to consider why we wouldn't use it. If there's more drawbacks than benefits, totally makes sense. But then we also have to do that same thing with our current practices. So, Amnesty Days. Simple concept and an idea that came from a former colleague of mine, Larry Hurd, who actually has passed on. Excellent teacher, was actually runner-up to National Teacher of the Year. He was an art educator. And we were looking at our failure prevention data of the number of students that were in danger of failure. And our teacher and our school leadership team, administrators and department chairs and things of that nature. And Larry, in his tagline phrase, said, "I have an idea, folks," which always made us nervous because Larry was brilliant. He would come up with ideas that really challenged us. And he said, "We need to have an Amnesty Day." And his rationale for that term is that amnesty in its root comes from the same as amnesia, to forget it. The idea that we would have scheduled and structured breathing room for the students and teachers. Sometimes, and initially at my former high school, it was a makeup day. We just announced to the kids, listen, I know you've gotten behind. Maybe you did it because you were lazy and indifferent. Maybe you did it because you were busy and everything else. But we're going to give you a chance to make up your work, to make up missing tasks and assignments. Over time, that evolved to where it wasn't just making up specific missing work, but it was a chance for students and teachers and teams to do some reteaching and relearning. And eventually we made them sort of unannounced. We just said, here's the week that certain departments must have them early in the semester and then a few weeks prior to final exams. But that was only augmented when we, at the time, didn't use this term. It's one that I came up with when I put my bookwork together. Missing essential assignments, extended chance. The penalty for not doing the work should be doing the work. But we have to challenge ourselves. Is the work students are doing essential? So if we're to have an amnesty day or an amnesty period, what type of work are we having students do? Is it essential for where their current learning needs are? Or is it just to make up that assignment that happened to be missing in my grade book? And I really want to challenge us on that now. This is where we need to hold both the students accountable, but more importantly, the adults. Not every assignment is essential, and certainly not every assignment is essential for every student, period. That's a fact that's really hard to refute. Doesn't mean that students get away without doing a certain amount of required work, and it might not mean that certain students wouldn't have the same quantity of work. We would never bat an eye if at baseball practice the coach took one of the players over for more hitting or more fielding or more ground balls because that's what they needed. Practice time doesn't change. What they do during the practice time changes. So some schools have ZAP programs, zeros aren't permitted. It's a great idea in nature, but sometimes what happens is we put students in the cafeteria or some makeup time just to do the work, just so we can put it in the grade book, and the average will improve. The difference here is we're ensuring that the work that we're going to have students do for any type of makeup is targeted to their learning needs and the learning progressions. It could take an existing ZAP and give it an adrenaline shot. And I highlight some more examples and details in my book, pages 111 and 112. But another way to think about this, imagine students next fall miss 2 assignments, student misses 2 assignments in August, 1 in September, doesn't miss any in October, and we have an Amnesty Day November 14th. Would it make sense at all for a student to make up work from August in mid-November? Rarely. Now, if that was the only task and the only example or the only assignment that the student needed to produce essential evidence towards one of our power priority standards, fine. But I'm going to challenge often that if we have students making up work from 2 and 3 months ago, or even the last unit, it's possible that it does exactly what we don't want in terms of their future behavior. It perpetuates the behavior of them not putting in quality effort and time because they know it's just to get it in the book and it's not related to what we're currently learning. It would make more sense that instead of those 3 missing assignments, they're doing 3 different ones in November that are related to our current unit, or they're taking an existing unit, activity or task, and going deeper with more rigor and more effort there. So the idea that they would get away from doing a certain amount of required work is not the case. We're going to challenge ourselves, and what a great place in our teacher-based team to have this discussion of what are some additional assignments and tasks around current units that might be more rigorous and more relevant than what we did 2 or 3 units ago. So, quick reflection questions for webinar 7. How do you currently provide time for learning recovery and catch up during the semester? And I really stress that term, learning recovery. So before we get to the end of the semester in December or January, what are we doing early? And then how could we improve the focus of the student work by ensuring any and all makeup work tasks are aligned to what the student most needs and not just completing predetermined tasks? As always, I appreciate your time and participation in these webinars. Once again, I've appreciated some of you have already sent me some comments and thoughts and questions and challenges. And please, push back, challenge the ideas, challenge the concepts. I don't feel like I have the market cornered on these ideas. But together, I think we can say, what are the actions and practices that are going to give us the best results? So I really appreciate some of you that have done that. And I think we've had some really good electronic dialogue back and forth. Please have a great rest of your day, and I look forward to talking with you on Webinar 8 very, very soon.